Hello, YouTube. It's Feedback Friday time again. We're going to basically jump straight into it right after I have a sip of my sugar-free Red Bull. Delicious. Okay. So, switch over to this guy. And here we go. People know it's feedback time, so they're going to start uploading pictures during the stream. So great. So glad about that. All right, what did let's read what Sugars Den had to say. Hi, Eric, it's me again. This time I'm posting my finished piece looking for general feedback. I did this piece as an experiment, but I want to put it in the competition, some competition. I've never seen anything like that being done before, so I gave it a try. It's a tribute to an old comic book smashed up with pop art style. Yeah, it's like this halftone thing. I know the technical side of things could be improved, but this one is pretty much done, and I think I've learned enough in the process that if I ever tackle the similar style again, I could do better. Okay. So, interesting. All right. So there is something that immediately stands out to me. Do you guys know what halftone is? So basically halftones are the like dots that you have in old printing methods, and they're essentially like, because the old printers couldn't print in like gradients and stuff, they use these dot patterns to kind of create highlights and shadows and stuff. So you would, if you would zoom in, but I see what's the attempt going on here. So if I was to give, typically when you see this done, if I had a piece of feedback for you in order to make this style work better, it's not so much about like this. This is really the area where I see the part that sort of doesn't make the most sense to me. It's not that the dots like get brighter. So we can see here, like you're using a gradient of dots the dots are getting brighter. Instead of doing that, what you want to think about doing, like, let's say let's do it a little bit on the background. So if you wanted this to be like a gradient back here, instead of doing different color dots and a gradient, instead what we want to think about doing is doing like increasing the density of dots, right? So we use the same color dots, but instead of changing the value of the dots, what we'll do is we'll start to space out the dots, right? So up here, if I want to make it like even darker up here, I then start putting more dots. Until eventually these dots get so dense, and they still like maintain sort of a pattern. This is often called like dithering in printing. You can call it dithering or halftone. Like this is halftone printing. And you can kind of like simulate this. You could simulate this effect in Photoshop. But see how like instead of changing the color of the dots, I instead increase the density here until eventually in this corner, the dots they become so dense that they start to overlap with each other. Yep. Hi, Eric with an H. Thanks for the tier 1. 7 months. Appreciate it. Okay, so does this make sense to you guys? Like, see the difference here is like we start to create a gradient through how many dots we use instead of changing the dot like colors, all right? So on the chest here, if we wanted to make this section lighter, right, we could use this same dot. Hip Hop Frogs, thanks for the prime, appreciate it. Right, instead of using white dots, instead we use these lighter color dots. And if we want to make this area, so I'll get rid of the white. Right, we start to like spread out the dots, and then if I want to increase the value in this section, we start to add more of the dots to begin to render this volume out in a way that increases the light here. Another tricky thing, because this is three-dimensional, and typically when you have this sort of look, you have a lot of spacing, right? So like, or not spacing, like you have to almost imagine it as like a projection. So it does get a little weird as it like starts to round to the side, because the dots would become closer together and become more oblong. I think it's just something you have to kind of deal with. That's like not going to necessarily work perfectly from every angle. My other point of feedback would be like blacks you're going to have really strong blacks. So you definitely want to like really work on the lining here and separate elements in this pop art style. So you need to have like real black lining. I'm try and sharpen some things. There's just like not enough black lines separating some of these elements. Comic books use a lot of black. To render elements. Okay, so I would go around and try your best to blackline all this stuff. All right. Okay, some things like that, right? It's going to help sell that style more. Okay. Then the other thing would be like, I think the face is probably too dark. And like, instead of these like dark dots here, we could switch to like lighter ones. To place lights on the face where we want. I don't know if you have a specific reference that you use to sort of paint this, but yeah. Do the highlights on the metals need to be dots also? Not necessarily. And in fact, printing, typically whites are solid because whites are just where the printer did not. It's just the white paper underneath. So they don't use white ink, right? Most of the time. They just leave white sections blank. The turtle dad, I don't have like a specific answer to that. It depends on the figure. Depends on the figure and depends on the look you're going for. Anyways, so that would be my major points of feedback. Is try and play with the density of it instead of worrying so much about like just the color and size. And there's another thing that you often see in this style is that the dots aren't like so similar, right? This is like kind of just a darker version of this. I mean, it's slightly more orange, but you can start to create skin tones and things by like, this is very yellow right now, the skin. If you wanted the skin to look more natural, instead of being very yellow, like we'd want to use some sort of like reddish dots or something that we can use to, so like the same value here, but like make it way more red. And we can start to like average out the colors that will begin to combine and create the all, when you zoom out, the colors start to combine and average together to create the color that you're looking for. Right, so we could even take some very like grayish green dots here or something and use those to like alter the color in a way. I mean, the only way to like really see this is to look at this sort of place in general. Got the post-con sniffles. Not post-con. It is pollen season, hay fever. I came back from Milwaukee and all the trees have decided to spread their yellowness everywhere. So, fun. Happens to me every time. So this is pollen congestion. Okay. All right. All right, are we at the bottom so I can scroll back up and see stuff now? We looked at that one. The very Korea looking one. The Bold Bear, Burn. Hi Eric, I'd love some feedback on this piece, which I intend to enter into a comp in April. Someone has been looking at Kirill Kanaev's paintings for sure. I'd like to know if this is like an exact replica of a Kirill figure. It looks like it. It looks like you're attempting that. You were using reference. Hi, plant. So, my feedback for you is value light placement is pretty good. Like I said, I'm assuming this is probably based on that. Like, yeah, the light placement is going to be good if you're referencing someone else. So, not surprising there. What I will say is it looks really good like this, and then it starts to look pretty muddy when we get more zoomed in. So technical refinement is going to be a thing on this one. And from that aspect, that's just like time and cleanup. There's no real way around that. Just pure precision, like this is this here is just too noisy. Can't really see what's going on here. Too noisy. The glove is very muddy looking, so we want to this is also super muddy, so we want to try and simplify. This is also looks quite dirty looking. So, yeah. So if we look at the gloves, for example, we want to try and simplify some of these shapes, get rid of some of these really dark colors, like these super dark, sort of muddy yellows that look very greenish. So yeah, we need to think more about like the overall shape of the hand, think about the light position, and then more subtleties in the glove. Right, so something along those lines. Then instead of this like dark muddy color, like you see how dark gray this is, maybe bring this up some or to like a mid-tone. So it's like a deep brownish color, like a more brownish color. And save those close to black values just for the recesses. We're trying to work on definition here, and just defining, just want to establish the volumes, define the shapes. A lot of people I see go like way too black too early. Then we can even push this light a bit more in a few spots where we want some highlights. Okay, so can you see that? Like you can't even really read the shape of the hand that well. All right, So that means same sort of principle here, kind of everywhere. You're using a bit too much contrast in some parts, causing the figure to like lose shape, you know? What I call noisy these are noisy values. It's too extreme for the areas that we're kind of working in. You start to lose the general shape and form. So we have to work on that, like this especially. This is like way too dark in here. And then yeah, just general refinement level stuff of like smoothing this stuff out a bit, you know? Make sense to you guys? Don't use so much black all the time. The blacks that you do use, this should be limited to areas that you want to be like absolutely dark. Need to be able to read the larger shapes. Okay? Make sense? Yes, no, maybe. I hope so. Don't be so afraid of midtones. Eric, how would you go about helping the beard definition more? It's just finer, painting finer. Like if you have to also ask like how heavy the beard is, right? So you just paint really fine lines. If you want to watch me paint a beard on a figure that doesn't have one, go watch the MMA fighter video. There, plugged a video. You can literally watch me paint a beard on a model freehand. Cool. Looked at that one, looked at this one. Nathan. Hi, I'm looking for feedback on face and recommendations on where to place light on the rest. Any other feedback is greatly appreciated. This is cool. Looks pretty good in the thumbnail. Very, very readable. I think you're probably overdoing some shadows a little bit, but hey, you want a guide for where to place the lights? They're literally in your photo. Here, on this edge, there's a highlight here. Look, you've got all the highlights of where to place the reflections on that stuff. You got light here and here, light here. Yeah. You can use the photo reference for highlight positions. It works pretty well. But you can literally see them on the on all the chainmail. You know? So there you go. There's my recommendation on where to place them. How about that? Now, as for the face, I like the face. There's a couple spots where you're going a little too dark. Mainly these. These are a bit much. I'm going to go with like this sort of color instead. So we can bring this back up. They're not that recessed. I know it's pretty heavy, but this is probably a little too much. Don't need to overdo it. Okay, something like that. Some of these might also be a little heavy, but I think he did a pretty good job on these. All right. Something along those lines. So let's look at the difference real quick. Are these two? This is also too heavy of a line. I know he's got some pretty deep shapes in his skin, but this is probably also a little dark here. Could bring this up a tiny bit. Okay, so yeah, let's look at before and after. So before, after, right? And then what I'd like to see is come back with this sort of shadow tone here. Let's try and get the light on the face a little more separated. I'm gonna make this a multiply layer so we can darken some sections a little bit more. But I'm always looking for like creating a light and shadow plane, right? So like where does the plane of the head change, you know? Defining these major shapes, the larger forms, you know, we create a stronger separation in light and shadow. Like the teeth should also, if the teeth are curving away from the light here, they should have a bit of shadow on them. And then obviously like much of this neck down here would be in shadow. So first is like upping the lights a little bit. And then you can push the shadows a little more if you want. Right? So I'll keep stressing it forever, I'm sure. But pushing the general shapes first and then adding adding details, right? So define the major planes of the face and then create more nuances. Then what I'd like to see is you come back and add some more color into a few areas. You can come in and like push this maybe just a tiny bit more. I'm going to kind of overdo it to just show you. What do we want? And then I'll tone it down. So it's like we're doing like an extreme coloration, but this is going to look silly at first. But then when I tone it back, oh, he's such a pretty boy. Look at him. Right. Then I knock this back down to like 30%, 25% of that. You can see it's like just a little bit of color to give some coloration to the face, you know? Yeah, definitely. Definitely the first time I've ever said paint the general shapes first. Okay, cool. Yeah. Peepo glazes. Did you submit 2 this week? Didn't you submit one down here? Isn't this the same model? Do you want me to look at this one? Okay. What do you have to say? Thoughts on the yellow midtone at the moment of the arm and how everything works together. Also, other general feedback. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Not bad. Let me tell you something about composition. Don't do this. This looks like she's got a tree sticking out of her head. This is the same as like taking a selfie in front of a light lamp pole and you have a lamp pole like sticking out of your head like this. He said, no. Okay. Here's another thing. It's not too bad. I would probably just remove it. Mini painting enthusiast, thanks for the prime. Appreciate you. I think the... It's weird because she's like looking upwards slightly. I really like the face, by the way. This is super good. Before I start talking about other stuff, this is really nice. Yeah, so it's kind of weird because I feel like she should be up higher. Like, I'm looking at the horizon, and the horizon is above her eyes, which is a little odd. Especially since she's looking up. I would consider dropping it down some. The other thing is, I don't think this is necessary. It's just going to distract. Like, what's the subject of the piece? Is it her? I assume you want it to be her. So this is weird. Like, then this should probably be lower. So what I would do is kind of aim. You want, like, if we go by rule of thirds here, right? We've got this. I would think that her eye line would maybe be closer to up here, where you've sort of done that. And then this, right? You could put the horizon sort of here. So her arm would be kind of here. Her eye line would be up here. So shifting her more up like this. Anyways. Yeah, I would get rid of the tree. I don't have too much to comment on the painting of her. I think it's quite good. What I would ask is, like, what kind of light you're going for. This seems quite cold, so when it gets to doing the like the whites or these yellows, you probably want to like go into these more cool, like almost greenish grays on the like yellow jacket, and then it'll work fine. So you'll have more yellowish midtones. So it's like, is she being lit by moonlight, or is she being lit by, you know, incandescent light from some other surrounding? But based on these like more these like whitish cold lights that you have, I would assume that is more like you're going to do more cool highlights. Which I think could work really nice. Then, yeah. So this is pretty good. These will never be as bright as the top part, so tone them down some. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Your lines are off. Your bottom reflections are stretched more. The reflection in the pool should be the same dimension. The reflections in the water should be the same dimensions as the above. And they should match the reflections. So like, where is this reflection coming from? This one is this one. This one would be this center light, right? Then they should be directly beneath. So this one, that one. Okay, this one should be directly below with the window being slightly above it. And then you blur them out. And they should be, because they're not, because they're blurred, the overall value is slightly more spread out. So they'll be slightly darker. Your sky in the water, this should not be brighter than up here. Who I got? In Barth 4714. Hello, thanks for the follow. And then typically, if you think about cities, there should be some sort of light pollution, which means that you have behind these buildings or around the city, you will have this will this will silhouette the skyline more. But yeah, typically you'll have some sort of haze around because there is atmosphere and some sort of light pollution from the city. So typically the sky is actually at night, in the daytime too, is normally slightly lighter towards the horizon than it is above. So you want to get darker so you want to darken down this upper area. Hey, Barth. Nice to meet you too. Okay, so you have a little light pollution there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like the idea. It's like just executing it. And yeah, I hope you are looking at references of I would look at references of Venice at night or something would probably be a good place to look. And it's a direct reference to a painting. Just the backdrop though, right? Yeah. So I don't love using other paintings as reference because you're not seeing the reference they're basing it off of. You're basing it off of their artistic interpretation of real life. So you're making an interpretation of an interpretation. Instead, what I would do is I would try and find your own reference to base it off of. I'm probably not going to be able to see this because I don't log into Instagram on my computer. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's cool, but it's a little odd. All right. Anyways, yeah, this extra character. Anyways, yeah, keep going. I think the yellow totally works fine. I'd be interested to see what colors you choose for her shirt and scarf and stuff. So, keep going. You could simplify where you want and yeah, get rid of the tree, dude. It's not doing anything for you other than getting in the way. Or if you want to do the tree, flip the background. Yeah. Because the whole point of the original painting is the interaction between the two characters or the tree and the guy looking at the tree, right? Here you're not looking, the character is not looking at the tree. They're looking away from the city, which kind of changes the like whole mood of the figure or the whole mood of the piece by like the like for me it would be it changes it from to like I want to leave, you know? The eye line and everything says like I want to get out of here. I think it'll turn out nice. The painting is good. Dig it. This is what I think it is. No, this one's okay. Drets. Erica would like some feedback on the skin in MM for this mini. I recently finished the pin up for sake. No, this is the pin up butcher, right? Yeah, this is the pin up butcher. I want to know if I can still push brightness on the skin. I'm still working on the background for doing pictures. Okay. Looks pretty good. I think the skin's pretty nice. I don't think you'd really, I mean, push the brightness more. It's already like basically white. So I don't think you need to push the brightness more. For the non-metallics, yeah, it needs some color in it. Like, kind of, the value jump here is interesting because we sort of go from a pretty high value to like, sort of drops off the cliff. And I don't know if this is supposed to be metallic or real bone right now. Like this, the skull thing. So yeah, it's sort of jumping, just like jumping off a cliff here in terms of values. So we need a bit more of these like saturated kind of values like this that are slightly lighter. Let's do this as an ad. So yeah, let's try and push some of the lights a bit more. And then get some color back in there. All right, let's look at this. Then I'm gonna do this again. All right, so stage 1 brightening, stage 2. You know, you gotta push that light really, like really push that contrast on metallic parts. Otherwise, and don't lose the color. Like these colors here, these are really important to have some of these saturated tones as you change from the like we'll say the like mid-tones, right? As you move into the highlights. Okay? So these like transitional colors from the mids to the lights are what's really going to make it look like gold or brass or whatever. That's where the general saturation tends to show up a lot in metallics. And you can see just how yellow that is. People wash out golds a lot. Okay. So now you really see like between the boots and the shoulder thing, like just how much more like bone it looks because it's lacking these colors. You know, if I add the yellow to this, it might start to look like gold again. But again, I don't know if the intent was to paint this as gold or not. It's a hard, these are also very difficult shapes to make look metallic, but yeah, like this thing here needs some color in it. This also needs color in it. And then you push it more. The skin I like. And then you could tone it back down if you need, you know? But yeah, get some of that color in it. Now the axe is it's just like too gray, and here you don't have any like upper values, so we need to get some like mid-tones. I think this is generally an issue with metallics. When people are like working on non-metallic, they don't put enough midtones in their metallics. You also don't need to use like blue. You can use like brown, like grayish. Like these grayish oranges also work great for metallics. Especially if you're, you know, steel is not blue, guys. The sky is blue. That's why steel looks blue most of the time. But if you're not putting the character in a scene where they're supposed to be in the sky, don't really need blue in your steel. So simplify flat areas. Hello. That's a new spelling. I haven't gotten that one before. And then some broader shapes, you know. Then you can find points and stuff where to create like really bright shines. Did you try the new StarCraft? No. I did not try the new StarCraft tabletop miniatures game. Paint liquor. Hi, Eric. Would appreciate some feedback on this piece. Still a whip. I'm looking for any tips that could punch it up. I'm not too concerned about his left arm as they'll be blocked by another figure, but any commentary. Okay. Yes, I'm going to contrast. It's chunky. What's up with that? What's going on? What's happening? Lack of value? There's a lot of value. There's plenty of value. You've got tons. It's not the lack of value. Everything is like the same value, you know? Not everything. But like in the main area, everything is sort of the same. The value range and everything is all quite similar, right? So we need to start thinking about, like, does the shadows of this yellow really need to be this dark, right? This is probably too dark for this. Okay, maybe the face needs more light. All right, so, or maybe the cloak is too light and needs to come down, right? Like maybe this yellow is too bright and we want to do a cloak that's more like, I don't know, this or something. So, yeah, let's try and... Oh, that's brush too small. Let's try and tone some stuff down. Or maybe average some of this stuff. Right, save these darkest shadows that you're doing just for the areas that are like different parts of the cloak, you know? Where the cloak really like layers on top of each other or whatever. So you get these like super dark areas, like over here, like this doesn't need to be this dark. This is not really in shadow so much. None of this is really in shadow that much other than it's like underneath. You know? So we can create a little more general shape to the cloak, flattens the values a little bit, but gives us a bit more overall shape to it. Then we're going to come in on the face. Maybe push some light on the face a little. It's maybe a little too narrow right now, so like the forehead here could be brighter. The cheek could be brighter, like the bridge of the nose is probably a little too dark. Yeah, bring this up a little. Right. And then we can create some light here and here. Now, if we put this back on top, come here. See how we changed the focus now? Exit 85. I'm not going to answer that question. Sorry. You want to know? You guys want to know how to win a demon? I'll give you the secret. All right, here's the real secret: how to win a demon. Okay. Paint a cool model. and make it really Warhammer. That's it. And then paint it really well. Notice I didn't say anything about style. I didn't say anything about like how it needs to be. Like, oh, don't do this or that, and you have to do a conversion or all these things. Make it cool. Make it Warhammer. And paint it well. Anyways, this is my big feedback on gives me this is about where I think you should get to. Yeah. So work on separating hierarchy, you know? A hierarchy of values. Hello, Ghoul. Hi. Yep, all the real secrets were behind the ads, sorry. I'm gonna go take a quick break, and then I'll be right back. Dubba. Hey Eric, I would really appreciate it if you could tell me one or two things I should focus on more right now. It feels like I'm not making any progress. The miniature, okay, yeah, very Napoleonic. Okay. What's that? Dapper Walkie. Thanks for the gifted tier 1 sub. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Things you should be focusing on. Well, these models are so tiny, dude. If it was up to me... Wait, you have more, you have more pictures. Okay. Okay. I mean... It's a gateway sub. Once you have no ads, you'll never go back. Nice. I think generally from the standpoint of what to focus on next, one is certain colors, particularly the horse. Like these are some pretty unnatural colors for the horse. I would try working in a little more grays in some areas. Like you might be painting a little too saturated in some parts. This is a little unnatural coloration for the horse. Like I would expect it to be like a little more brown than like this bright orangey colors. Doesn't feel quite realistic. Knowing when to use saturation and when to like not is pretty key for a good figure. Like generally it's easier to harmonize with slightly more desaturated colors, and then you want to use more saturated colors in areas of focal points, like accents to draw the eye. Other than that, yeah, like there's some parts where you're placing highlights really high on the model. Well, I want to bring some lights down a little bit more, like here on the shoulder. Try and start thinking, like I think the volumetrics on the horse aren't bad, but you tend to put highlights all the way on the top. So try and bring them forward a little bit more. Generally help you render the shapes a little more. Then you can try and paint a little thinner, but I understand that these are very small. You might want to just try painting some, I don't know, I think it's just shiny. I think it's just really glossy paint. I would avoid too glossy of paints for like blacks and stuff. Yeah, so placing those highlights slightly more forward on the volume. I don't know the exact color of their cloak or their jackets, so excuse my Napoleonic era knowledge of uniforms. Yeah, then painting a little thinner, you know, making sure, generally I think you're like you're doing a good job blacklining and defining some shapes here. Then from there, yeah, really the key to painting effective, the key to painting an effective miniature at this scale is really like just definition, right? Like we want to work on definition and readability. So like even here, like defining some of these shapes, right? Like trying to pick out some of these edges and stuff that'll help define these shapes a little more. We can get some of these folds in the chest. Cue ball, thanks for the follow. I like the color, like you've got some nice coloration in the face. And then yeah, when it comes to like these leathers and stuff, try and like use some, instead of using like glossy black, use some like gray blues and stuff to, because he's obviously outside, right? You can use some grayish blues to start to create some highlights. And this is very dependent on the material, how diffused these highlights might be. So you could do something like this, right? And then leathers and stuff. If it's supposed to be really shiny, so like boots, we can literally like use a bit of the things like boots and stuff. The shine is going to be more sharp. So yeah, we could sort of follow what you've got with the sort of highlighting here to create those sort of sharp lines that we sort of expect to see on like patent leather, you know? It's like glossy leather. Yeah, so that would be the big thing I would work on if I was you, is work on a little more natural colors on more natural elements, you know. And then work on your highlighting some, and then just painting thinner lines. But generally I think your dark lines, your values, your different like separation of values and stuff is very good. Like you're not like overshadowing the white cloth or anything, so that's nice to see. Yeah. Cool. Hope that's helpful. Fallen shots. Hi Eric, I tried to do a more global lighting strategy, looking for general feedback. Okay, well I think that this is the good picture angle for this lady. Global lighting, what does that mean? What does it mean? Global lighting strategy, in air quotes, global lighting. Is it non-directional? But it seems like you have directional lighting. Seems like you're going with a directional. So, yeah. Which one is it? Which one? In any case, probably overdoing certain parts, okay? So that's a bad color. Something like this. Let's think about toning this down. You're pushing these value highlights too high. Okay, you guys, yeah, stop blowing out colors. Your paint's also very glossy, so it's showing a lot of highlights where they're not really. Over highlight too much. Need to focus the light on the face, on let this surround the face more. Okay, that's sort of the first thing. Okay, the next is, yeah, if we want to do lighting on the face, some of this is very gray at the moment. Like, this is super gray. Like, look how gray this is. It's like a bluish gray purple. Like, again, maybe you're trying to do something with the, what's it called? But it's, everything is like so desaturated. Right? Look at this red. It's like all the way over here. We need to get some color back. Okay. And then work on defining the planes of the face. See, you've got this, look at the value of this. See how low it is? Right? Let's try and get closer. Something along these lines. Okay, you see we start to pull out the shape. Maybe you guys can see it. I'm like squinting at the iPad. I'm squinting because I'm trying to see the forms, right? I'm trying to see the like overall general shape of the head and just look at the light and shadows. So I'm trying to cut out like some of the midtones in like my own view of this in order to see the shape, like the general shape more clearly. All right, so this is too dark. Let's add some saturation back. Doesn't need to be that dark. And then, yeah, you're probably blowing out some highlights here. Let's get some midtones back. Okay, then some dark areas. Clean up these eyebrows. The eyebrows have no shape to them at the moment. Your eyebrows should kind of go like this. Like they're too much of just like little lines. I don't like black under the eye. This is like black blue. Okay, it's weird. Use like a dark reddish tone or something. This eye shape is wrong too. Yeah. All right. Oh, what? Define. Separate here. Separate the lips. Separate the eyelids. And if you want to be a fancy lad, by the way, the whites of the eyes are not blue. You can put some shadow in the eye. Your eye is a ball. It's a sphere. Okay. So. Okay, get the general shape. Now if we look at it in terms of values, All right, now I could come back afterwards and take some of this lighter blue if you want now and come back and create some highlights on the fabric or whatever, but getting these basic forms and not overdoing certain parts. And if you want to make it like a shiny fabric, you can. We need to separate. I painted a very textured mini. It was like painting sandpaper. The sculpt was like that. Will it play against me in a competition, or it doesn't matter? It might, depending. I don't love super textured models. They're kind of annoying. Yeah, you could extend out the pink in the lower lip. Oh, like extend it out this way. Yeah, it should taper a little more. It should taper in slightly more. Should come like that. Cool. All right. And then, yeah, there should be definitely a dark line here that separates that. Did that one. Jacose, thanks again for the feedback last time. Here's my flower night again. I've hit my limit for the month, so I'm stepping away for a bit. Any major spots that stand out to you? I've added a couple of bits of the feedback you gave last time and got everything else to... Okay, I don't love reviewing the same model twice, but this does look much better. So lighting is definitely more consistent. There's still some parts where you're trying to overcomplicate it, like on the hood. The goggles are a bit weird. I would look up pictures of like glass goggles, welding goggles or something, where you could see the design more clearly. But from a general aspect, the lighting is much better. I think you still probably don't have enough. I'm going to do this really quick because, again, I don't love reviewing the same model multiple times. You can especially see it on the back. We need a few more darker tones. Right. So the darkest, we get some, but I don't know how much of it is the lighting and how much of it is this. So yeah, it's a little blown out right now. So what I would recommend is just trying to, I'm going to do this like in a pretty broad strokes. Like we need some sections in the metallic, and the problem is this is going to like end up going over some of the filigree and stuff, which is not great. But yeah, you got like a bit, you need some darker sections to make this feel shinier, all right? Because the shine, like the darks in metallics is going to make the brights feel brighter. So even though I just did like a few small little areas, Right, whatever, that works. You can see, like, yeah, by adding more of these deep shadowy colors, these tones that are close to black and metallics, you're going to make it feel more metallic. Then you have to come back and, like, yeah, we would come back and make sure that, like, all of these little areas are nice and bright from the shine that would go on them, you know. Because all this filigree, your filigree is also too flat. It's all the same, like, white. Right? Some of them are better, like this flower is better. But yeah, you're doing this, like, it doesn't look like metallic here on this acanthus. It looks like just like bone white, you know? So you need that variation on that too. This area, like, this thing is much better. Like, it has contrast in it, where these, like the one you did over here, right? It's just all sort of one thing. It's just black and white. Okay. Big Roz painting. Hello. Thanks for the follow. 6'2" koala. Oh boy, another flower night. Here we go. Hey Eric. Hope you enjoyed your time at Adepticon. I did. This is my latest finished piece. Keen to hear your thoughts on it. Trying to figure out the bit of style development and where I want to go with my painting at the moment. I mean, yeah. Looks cool. It's very green for camo-y. But, you know, I would say in general looks pretty good. Face is a little... Not really the face, the eyes, actually. The eyes are not great. But overall, I think the figure is quite good. I don't have too much to say, honestly, on the figure. Like, maybe push some highlights here and there, depending on how shiny you want your armor to be. Like, I feel like you're pushing the highlights more on the red parts. So maybe it would help to come in and just add a few more, like, really intense highlights to the greens. Just not a few edges to... I mean, you are pushing them quite a bit. But it could help to just add a few more, like, particularly around focal areas. There's some cleanup and stuff I'm seeing. I definitely think you're on the right track. Metallic looks pretty good. Don't love the goggles. They're like a little too cartoony. Maybe do like, don't do these lines. Like, you guys don't do like lines. This is weird. It's just like 3 lines. try and make like a bigger reflection or something, right? Like, well, you can always go by like I've sort of talked about it before, but there's like this big, medium, small principle. So, right, so we have like one big reflection, one medium reflection, one small reflection. And then we could even push like the highlight in the big reflection some more. If you want to do something like that, make the goggles like a little more interesting. I know these faces are tiny, so I'm not going to comment too much on the face, but yeah, the eyes feel a little like they're off slightly. Right, this one is like a little higher, this one's like a little more in the middle. That's a tough thing to get right. But overall, I think it's pretty good. Maybe like too much of this rustiness showing up on his boots. It might be, you might have gone a little overboard on that. Because, like, I assume with black leather gloves that his boots would also be black. But yeah, it's pretty nice. Pretty good. This is a big thing. This is like a very particular thing. It's not con crud, it's hay fever. It's pollen season. It's causing my one side to be very stuffed up. I've been sneezing like crazy. Popping Claritin. Yeah, this is not great, like, presentation. Okay, so try and fix that. You can fill it in with putty and sand it and repaint it, but this little stuff can matter a lot. This is more a tip for the general audience than like you specifically. But yeah, man, pretty cool. I like the back. It's neat. Better not be a meniscus on that water. Doesn't seem like it. Looks like he did a pretty good job. But I'd have to see it in hand. Yeah, there's just like a general level of sharpness. Like the blending on these cables isn't great. But yeah. The Gene Stealer Cultist. He's here to steal your genes. Hi Eric, this is a Wargaming Mini I want to push to a display level. I would appreciate some feedback and a special advice on NMM reflections. Okay, you want to know how to push something to a display level? Don't put it on a gaming base. Present your model with the intention of it being for display. That's my quick tip. Needs edge highlights. for sure. General level of sharpness like needs to go up, like the bedroll and stuff, you know. All right, I'll do it. Let me do it. Yeah, let's do this one. I like this picture better. Is it acceptable to build a display base that can contain a gaming base? Yeah, sure. I'm not saying that gaming bases can't do well. But I don't think you're helping yourself with a gaming base. If you get what I mean. It's like kind of the message you're sending, you know? It's like taking the Mona Lisa and thumbtacking it to the wall. Highlights. You need highlights. Work on your sharpness. Okay. Sharpness increase. This sharpness increases definition, increases readability. Okay. This stuff is important. Then you can push it even more than that in a few spots. Right, like look at the difference. Just add. Oh crap. Insert. No, go back. There we go. Right, increase that readability. Then, with metallics, your metallics aren't bad in terms of like some of the light, but you've like even more so than the other parts, defining that edge is like everything. Then you can add like some brighter shines in some areas, but you've got to define these edges, dude. So this is going to be like the number one thing you can work on. Is just like clean, sharp edge highlighting. This doesn't make any sense. I would do some study on metallics. Metallics, like cylinders, don't work that way. They don't reflect like in the middle like that. They're elongated, right? You can see on this, right? The reflection are elongated along the length of the cylinder. Okay, so if you are going to have an orange reflection, it's going to be like this towards whatever side. So the horizon will be, you might not get any horizon on like this part. Just depends on the angle of the bike. what angle you're looking at it from. More likely this would like reflect some of the jerry can or whatever. So yeah, you have to consider the shape. Now, like this fork, right? The front fork of the bike, like the bottom of this is definitely going to reflect the ground, right? So you would have some sort of ground reflection there, and then you would have some sort of horizon, whatever. And then you would get into the lighter sky colors towards the top, and then somewhere would be the main highlight, like this. However it's shaped. Okay. So study up the basic shapes of metallic, or how metallics work on basic forms. You have cylinders, spheres, cones, cubes. Those are your kind of like basic ones. Devereaux. Hey Eric. Worked on an NMM study for the month of March. But I think I got a little lost in the sauce with it after trying to include some lofty ideas in the planning phase. Do you have any pointers for balancing competing light sources? Okay. So here's the problem with this. All right, so we've got a reference photo here of the two light sources, right? So the issue with this is plastic and not metallic. Okay? Plastic and metallic do not work the same way. Metallic is reflections. Plastic is mostly volumetrics. Depending on how shiny it is, you'll get some specular reflections. They work differently. Kefta Minis, thank you for the tier 1 in 11 months. Okay, but what we can see here is, look how far over some of the magenta light starts to show up, right? There are parts to this, and there are parts to this where the green shows up that we have to take into account. Then you get really screwy areas where the lights start to interact with each other, and you get doubled up lighting. So you're doing like red-green lighting. But then you also have this other, whatever you want to call it. So you have two different metallics reflecting two different lights. It's white light from the left with green armor. Okay. And then it's red light from the right on green armor. I don't know what color red light turns on a red or on a green reflected object. Metal. Because I don't have any green metal. It's not something we see very often. Okay. So green armor. So what's the teal stuff supposed to be? Is it supposed to be teal? Is the filigree teal? Yeah, okay. Okay. Okie dokie. So, yeah, I think you probably went a little too ambitious. For sure. But the important thing to note is one, we want this magenta light, right? It's light. We could see in the reference that the magenta light affects way more of this stuff than what you're kind of like allowing. So basically, every single one of these things needs a magenta reflection. And because it's metallic, depending on how shiny that metallic is, you're going to get a reflection of that actual light. Okay, there's not nearly enough magenta reflections in here, however they'd work. Get tons of magenta. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's like getting washed out. You need that magenta in there. Okay, like where's all the magenta in here? Where's the magenta here? This stuff gets magenta, blah, 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 blah. You get what I'm saying? Like we need strong reflection points. I like this thing more. Like you did, like this feels more like reflections with darker areas. I need to see those parts that are like really reflecting the light source, you know? Because with this filigree, anywhere you have this filigree, somewhere along these curves, you're going to catch that light somewhere. You're not going to only catch that light, you're going to catch the other light source somewhere. Right? This is what makes this figure super complicated, is because you have so much little curves and filigree, and all those little curves and filigree catch edges, you know? So it's like you got some up here. Well, if that one's getting some, that thing's definitely going to catch some. Shit, probably this thing's going to catch some, you know? This thing's going to catch, like that's definitely going to catch some light somewhere on it, which means these are going to catch some light somewhere on it. I'm not going to draw all of them. It'll take forever. But this light crosses over into the other side, even though this light is more dominant on this side. Which means then you have a white light source, right? It's clearly like a warmer light source though. So on this, because the green is going from like green to yellow, right? So it's warming up, which means the teal is also going to get more warm. And that means some of these areas are also all going to catch, they're going to catch little reflections somewhere. Does this make sense? Like this light is probably going to reflect somewhere on this shoulder pad and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, you got to like have the two light sources interact more on the opposite side. Like, don't just paint the figure in two halves. It needs to, this light needs to cross over into this side, and then the magenta reddish light needs to cross over into that side. Cool. Morelith? Hello, Eric. Took some time, but finally got prime coupled, huh? Oh, I get it now. Would love to get feedback on what it can be improved in this model overall. Also love to get the model lighter without desaturating it too much. Took the photos as true to the real color value as possible. Okay. Carpenter bees. All right. You want to push the light, but not desaturate. So we're going to go this way. So you have room, and you can always warm it up some. All right, let's just take and... See? That's a long way you can still go. So get a saturated color. And if you don't have a saturated, like if you don't have just like a really bright orange or whatever, we'll use like a lighter skin tone or something and then glaze back over it to restore some saturation. Right? But you can push the light definitely more and keep it saturated without like, yeah. I know you guys, like, white does desaturate, okay? But if the tone you have on there right now is already sort of like, this isn't really desaturated, but you have space to go up in terms of, like, light and saturation. The skin is going to desaturate, that's like that, but you also are way over here in grays, and you have these sorts of colors over here, right? So you can use, like, more warm tones. Right? You don't have to use just white, you know. Try and simplify this guy's face some. That's like so wrinkly. Same with the beard. You want to try and simplify the beard shape a little bit. I think actually the beard's pretty good. But we want to try and like, here, let me make an add layer. So just increase the overall general light. But you can go up some. Okay, so yes, some things might get desaturated, but just push the values, dude. And if you feel like it's getting too desaturated, then filter back on top with some color. But try and, pick out some of the volumes, right? Simplify some of the face. Push the highlights a little more forward for me so that they're not like on the top right. I understand the light is coming from the top right, but highlights tend to be more centralized based on the viewer's position. And you can already probably see, and then like because the pumpkin's kind of satin, we can push that light even more, and it starts to go kind of like yellowish. Pumpkins are actually pretty shiny, by the way. So, yeah, push the light, the volumetric light, and then push the highlights. Your midtones are generally what, or your halftones, your mid, right? Those are generally determines how like saturated something looks, not the highlights. Right? So you can push your halftones more, and then you can put highlights on top of that. Treader Zero, thank you for the prime. Okay. No fear. And hippie. Hi, Eric. Some general feedback would be highly appreciated. What works and what could be improved. Thank you. Learning so much from your videos and your feedback. Thanks. I tried to capture the atmosphere from the original art by Patrick J. Jones while adapting and simplifying some things to make it work better on a 3D mini. Okay. It's pretty good. Things look a bit dark in some areas, but okay. Some shapes are a little too sharp, so I think generally light, dark lining and values look pretty good here. But when I say some shapes are too sharp, kind of referring to stuff like this. Some of the ab definition is like too sharp and defined. Let me tell you something about Patrick's work that you might not have noticed is he tends to paint with very desaturated, cool greenish lights, and he uses very warm. This is not warm enough. Let's go with something like this for the shadows. So if you go look at his work, check out like how reddish some of the shadows he does is. You will find that that red, when combined with the green highlights, starts to make a more natural skin color. So try and soften some areas, and like he will get down into these like dark, super saturated because he's making these like chromatic colors, right? So push your saturation in the shadows. You can see, might not feel like much of a difference from here, right? When we look at it like this, because it's so dark, right? But when you zoom in, you can really see that those shadow colors are quite strong. Genodope, hello. Okay, so warm up your shadows more. Don't paint them so dull, you know? These are pretty good. I like that you got some nice warmth in those. Like this is probably too gray down here. And then he loves to use like these like warmer magenta tones in certain areas. Man loves his magentas. So play around with some of the skin variation and stuff like you're doing an okay job, but you could do a little more. And then yeah, try and vary up. Don't make the skin tone so linear. This is pretty good yellowish tone, but you could actually go like even cooler slightly. Maybe something like greenish like this. Push the highlights a little more. You can use those highlights on her too. Okay, I'm going to pull some more focus. The two most important things is that we have good focus on her face and on his face. Okay, then you have a couple more interesting areas. His horns are pretty important. This is kind of important. This hand, right? But the main point of interest is like the interaction of this hand and his face, her face. Okay, so let's kind of look. Okay, so we add some more color, we play around with that, and we push the light a bit more. Cool. Cool. Slingy Master? Slinge Master? I don't know. Hello, thanks for following. Hip Hop Frogs. Gonna throw this one in real quick. First time submitting a fully completed model. I'm very proud of it, but this is about as far as I can push myself for a purely gaming mini. Painted a kill team for a buddy. Would like to know where it falls short. I mean, it's pretty good. Pretty good for a gaming mini. I feel like I have to sneeze. No? All right, great. Okay. Not bad. Big things I'm seeing is like, yeah, it's just like not enough definition in some of these parts, like where the gold, like why is this gold so dark and dull? Like, may separate this from the red, you know? Details. Details, edges. Sharpness, definition. Define all the edges. Definition leads to readability. Definition. You guys like definition on your models? I do. Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and draw a bunch of edge highlights, but like this is not defined, you know? You can define with black lines or you can define with edge highlights, but you gotta define. That's the only thing to do it. And then actually, this is the funny thing is the fur is probably too defined. So I would try and make it softer. Anyways, I can't turn it on and off because I forgot to put it on another layer. But you get the point. Paint, more definition. You base coated his boot. Where's my highlight on his boot, you know? Takes like 20 seconds to paint a little highlight on his boot. All right. People. Oh, and then all the people who submitted after the clock. After I started. Kajora, I'm working on this piece. I still have some parts to do. Like in terms of the helmet, but the overall idea is here, and I did follow along a bit with your YouTube video. You don't say. Look at that bread, dude. I would take a bite out of that bread. Love to have your overall feedback on the feed. I'm gonna go with this photo was great. But we'll look at it. Things look really kind of blown out. Okay, shadows. What's up with his hand? It's like turning black. All right, number one thing for you, definition. We gotta separate some things. I don't know if it's the photo or what, but some of your black, like some of your dark lining and stuff, like just isn't quite there. Even when you have like a cast shadow, the areas like in between will separate. So we want to, like, you can have shadows, you can have occlusion shadows in shadows. So all of these scales and stuff need to have even more shadows in them, right? This is what makes your figure really readable. Like this doesn't have a dark line. This one sort of does, but not really. This you did do the dark line, so that's good. Dark line. Separate the hair from this thing. There's my dark line here. This you dark line, that's good. Right. So if without some of the dark lines, like here, I'll zoom out a little. You can see like just how quickly some of this outlining like starts to add some extra definition to the model, right? We need those, you gotta have those like deep shadow areas where materials start to overlap with each other in order to separate them, like make them pop out, all right? Mere Immortal, thanks for the Prime. 11 months. Okay? So important. Hair's pretty good. I like the connection with the face. This is your metallics. If you're going for non-metallic, do not really read as metallic. Like these don't read as metallic. That doesn't read as the helmet does. The helmet has the correct level of contrast. The chest doesn't really. Like this is not bright enough. Like look how bright the helmet goes. It's like all the way up to white. But then the chest does not. This also goes much darker. Okay, so you got to push the values on some of those. And then if you're going for like I don't know what this is supposed to be, if it's supposed to be copper or something. If it's supposed to be copper and you're trying to do metallic, like you got to push the values way more. And they don't quite go pink. They go like kind of orangey skin tone color depending on the value of the light. So we need to get some, they're too red right now. So get some more, like copper is more orangey brown. It does turn a bit skin tone when it's like brand new. But we need like more of these like bit of yellowish sort of tones to make it feel like copper. Then we can push like into white. But only inside of that area. That means like all of this has got to get there should be the highlight sort of in the center of the helmet here. And if these are copper, there should be, you know, like the center of the highlight should be kind of there. Okay. So like, let's look at the difference here, right? So metallics is definitely the thing I would say work on, and pushing the deepest values a bit more. Okay. Okay. And his eyes, if you want his eyes to, like, you need to go. If you're trying to do some, like, red, creepy, glowing eyes stuff, value needs to go higher on these two. If you're trying to do, well, okay, red NMM, like, doesn't really make sense for a fantasy character. The problem, like, because how do you get red metallic? Like, you have to paint it, right? You have to, like, clear coat it with a, like, a red clear, like Iron Man. You don't have a natural red metallic. Or you, like, anodize aluminum. Genodope, thanks for the prime. Appreciate it. That bread looked good, though. Double knife. This is kind of blurry. Can you take a new picture for next Feedback Friday that's not so blurry? I can't see what's going on. Murph. Just in case you make it, dark skin practice focused on this one. Dark skin. It's definitely not done overall. All right. This is going to be super quick tips for dark skin. Okay. Number one thing, dark skin. This is too gray. Right? This is gray. This is just black, right? You need, like, they have color in their skin, okay? So, your midtone, your transitional midtone areas, should have like a dark saturated orange in them. Then, because of the white lights, the skin begins, in the highlights, the skin starts to wash out, right? So you need to come back and glaze a bunch of color back into the skin where it's gotten completely washed out. Yeah, the highlights do end up being more gray. That is correct. But the shadows, anywhere where you don't have actual specular highlights, is very warm. Yep. So you need to glaze back over top your saturated colors back into the mids. Right. And not necessarily like a purple red, like this like rusty orange red color, like red oxide kind of tones. Okay, because your light placement is quite good. It's just, yeah, it's way too, way too washed out. Yeah. Okay. That's the big thing for you. Other than that, yeah, you're doing a good job. Rush Mama, this is very good. Clothes look great. Probably could use some more definition in the base. But the cloth looks really good. The metallics look quite good. Could maybe use like some larger areas of shine. The face looks a little dull, but it could just be the photograph. Like, needs maybe like a little more color in the face. It's like a little washed out. But I like the rope, like the cloth is really good. I feel like it's like lost all color in the face. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely on your way. I don't have any of the like bright red on the here. So couple things. Okay. Where is this up here? Yeah, I'm missing. In fact, this one should probably be even more so than down further down on the model. The face is a bit too pale. Please add some color back into it, you know? Yeah, okay. So if it's there, maybe it's just really subtle. And then the metallics, like, try and pick some areas where you can just increase the light like a bit more. Like, you know, maybe these shapes, for example, have like just a bit more light catching them, right? Because everything just kind of goes from like black to white to black, right? Like there should be some areas of the metallic where you get some larger sections of highlight or the larger areas of light on the model, right? On the shape, like areas up here, you're going to have more higher values on some of these sections just because of the position of the shape. Okay, so it's little stuff, but I think it'll help out. E-Baker? What? Which one was yours? Fallen shots. Which one was fallen shots? Anyways, Brush Mama, yeah. That's pretty much it. Fallen shots. Which one was yours? Oh, this one. Oh, you meant more from side. Yeah. Yeah, okay, you need to push the contrast for sure then. Like, because I'm not getting that from this picture. All right. That'll do it for today.